So this, again, is a new part of the Rich Dad Radio program. It's called Ask Robert. And the reason we do this is because your personal questions are important to us. And there's no sense me blithering on about what I think is important. I better answer what you want to have answered. So the way you have a question submitted to us is you go to richdadradio.com, go to Ask Robert, and you say, this is my question. But if your question is selected, we will send you a book of your choice, one you have not yet read, and I will autograph it personally for you. So, Melissa, what's the next question, please?
Our next question comes from Susan. Susan lives in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Her favorite book is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And here's Susan's question. She says, Robert and Kim, I have $200,000 coming in. I want to buy an asset that cash flows enough for either my husband or I not to work. What kind of asset should we buy?
Well, the first answer to that question is I would recommend not telling anybody you have $200,000 coming in and admitting you don't know anything. Because if you don't know what to do with your money,
everybody
around you has a good idea what to do with your money. You know, I was watching the TV program about murder and all this stuff, and there was this radio guy, and he inherited $1.7 million, and he turned it over to his new friend, who was one of the biggest con men around, and the con man murdered him. So my point here is this, sports fans. You have no idea how desperate people are today, especially. They've always been desperate. But I've been a mark. You know, I've had money stolen from people I think are trustworthy and honest. So the first thing to do is be careful on who you say to people, I have this much money. Because if you don't know what to do with your money, everybody does. It's a great question because most people don't know. The other tip I'll have to offer people is this. Regardless if you have money today or not, let's say I don't have $200,000, now is the time to figure out what to do with that money if you did have it. You see, when Kim and I have money coming in, that money is already gone. We know where it's moving to. Most people wait till they have money, then they worry about that problem. Then they ask a financial planner or somebody, I got any money, and then voila, the money's gone.
I think Susan's looking for the $1 million answer. I'm going to buy this one asset, and then my husband and I never have to work again for the rest of our lives. I don't think it works that way. So here's what I want to say.
You might get lucky.
You might, and I mean people have, but then are you going to keep it because did you really know what you did? So let me start with this. First of all, there's 4 asset classes. There's business, there's real estate, there's paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, things like that. And there's commodities, gold, silver, oil, gas, things like that. So first of all, you got to figure out which asset class best suits you. You got to do a little homework. You got to do a little study. You got to figure out this one fits me better than this one. So for example, Robert and I don't do a lot of paper assets. I don't understand it. I've tried it several times. I've never been very successful at it. I love real estate. I'm good at it. I understand it.
You study it.
I study it all the time.
Go to classes all the time on it.
Yep. And you like oil and gas. It's not my thing, but you've been doing that since the 1970s with Standard Oil. So you got to look at what your best suited asset is, and then it really is a process, right? We didn't do this overnight. I mean, I started in 1989. You started in the 1970s. It really took us 5 years to get out of the rat race to become financially free.
Well, I actually started when I was a kid, 9 years old, 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel, and my rich dad would take me to look at his greenhouses. And as a little kid at 9 years old, I thought it was the most interesting thing there was. Now, my poor dad, the school teacher, thought my rich dad was a crook because he was stealing money from poor people, the tenants. But everybody's entitled to their point of view, which is why I wrote my new book, Why A Students Work for C Students. My father was an A student, and as you know, most A students, most academics are poor. So why would you want to be an A student? To work for a capitalist, which C student stands for, like me. And that's what the book was written for. It was for people to say to their kids, maybe getting an A, while at school is important, an A may not be that important, since the A doesn't really mean anything when you get out in the real world. It means something when you're in school, but once you're out of school, as I've always said, my banker has never asked me for my report card yet. My banker doesn't care I'm a C student. My banker only wants to care how much money I got on my financial statement is what the game of cash flow teaches you. So it starts with very basic, simple stuff. You can have fun, play Monopoly, play cash flow. but start stimulating your brain to think like a capitalist, not an academic.
Don't you think this question from Susan, what kind of asset should I buy? It kind of sounds like it's coming from an A student. Give me the right answer. And there really is no right answer.
Yeah.
You've got to do what's going to work best for you.
Give me your money. I'll tell you what to do with it. Give me your money. I'm a financial planner. I watch Susie Orman every day. I mean, that's what you should do.
Next question.
Okay, our next question comes from Scott. Scott is from San Francisco, California. His favorite book is Midas Touch. He says, Robert, I'm 20 years old. What does it take to become an entrepreneur?
That's a very, very good question, because let me just say this much. You look at the richest people on earth, they dropped out of school. And you look at San Francisco, you're living in the hotbed of entrepreneurship. I mean, San Francisco is where the 49ers went to. It was the gold rush. Real estate property in the 1850s is higher than it is in Phoenix today. So you're really in the hotbed of it, which means if you're not really entrepreneurial, or you're not, like an attorney or accountant or something, it's really tough to get ahead in San Francisco. So because prices are really, really high, and you got some very smart people there. So the first thing I would do is move to a place where people are stupid. And you'll have a lot better time there.
I wouldn't. Don't name that city. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
No, I'm only kidding. Look, what makes an entrepreneur is not grades, but skill sets. And my rich dad said to me, the most important skill set of an entrepreneur is ability to sell, which means I got to be able to raise capital, which means I got to talk to investors. I've got to be able to talk to my employees to work harder, produce more than I pay them. And, C, I've really got to know what to do with my money. So these are points. So I learned to sell. And I went to work for the Xerox in 1974 to learn how to sell. I was the worst salesman they ever had. But it took me 2 years of failing and failing and failing and failing. And then one day, just like a kid learns how to walk or ride a bike, one day I caught on. And now I'm a best-selling author. I still suck as an author. Nobody's putting me up for a Pulitzer Prize, but I sell more books than the A students. So it is skill sets. You read the right book, Midas Touch. If you want to be an entrepreneur, that'll give you some of the things, the skill sets you need to have. Another good point is this. The great thing about being an entrepreneur is you don't need to be an A student. You see, I hire A students. I don't have to be an accountant. I don't have to be an attorney. I don't have to be an IT guy. I don't have to be a human resource guy. I just have to be able to sell and raise capital. So those are some of the basic skill sets. Now, if you don't want to work for Xerox, I've always recommended people join a network marketing company. If you can't handle network marketing, odds are you can't handle entrepreneurship. So the great thing about network marketing is you can fail as much as you like and they won't fire you. So I'd recommend joining a network marketing company, especially if you're shy, and learn to overcome, hello, let me talk to you about it, I'm going to talk to you about this. And that's the most important skill, is can you overcome your fear and handle rejection? If you can't handle that, keep your daytime job.
Being not a small self-employed, but growing a business, it's not easy.
Oh, geez, it's terrible.
If somebody had said to me, I started when I was 27, and if somebody said to me, Kim, this is everything you're going to go through in the next 25 years to be a successful entrepreneur, I would have never started. Because the fact is, being an entrepreneur, really what you're doing every day is you're facing problems and you're solving problems. So
and crooks and cheats and con men and rip-off artists and lazy
There's all
people.
sorts of things that are happening. The best part for me, it's like a crash course in personal development, because you're looking yourself in the face every single day. You got to be accountable. You're the one that's got to make payroll. You're the one that's got to solve the problem. So if you're really serious about it, it's ongoing education. The learning never, ever stops. Robert, you had your rich dad as a mentor. I mean, a mentor can be a shortcut to success in entrepreneurship because they've been there, they've done it. But don't kid yourself. It's not the easy road, but it is, for me, I would never, ever go back. It's one of the most rewarding things.
Donald Trump and I always recommend network marketing. People say, why do you do that? Because Donald Trump and I are entrepreneurs. And we know what it takes. It's not about just doing something. It's about emotional guts and stamina, handling rejection, handling rude people, handling crooks, and all this. So if you're interested, there's a book I wrote called Business of the 21st Century. It's a rich dad book called Business of the 21st Century. I talk about the benefits of joining a network marketing organization, not for the money, but for the personal development, the training, the internal fortitude, it's called guts, it takes to be an entrepreneur. Because that's really what it takes. It's not about brains, it's about guts. And if you have the guts, you'll be extremely successful. Can you fail a number of times and keep going? That's what it's going to take. If you don't have that, become a school teacher, and complain about the rich getting richer. Because that's really what the Rich Dad Company stands for. My poor dad was an academic, a school teacher. When he lost his job because he ran for governor against his boss, the governor, and he was thrown on the streets, he found out his PhD meant nothing on the streets. He was basically cat food. He had no survival skills. And so that's why the Rich Dad Company really talks about, do you have survival skills more than school skills? And that's what it's going to take to be an entrepreneur. If you don't have it, please don't do it. As Kim says, the pain is so intense, which is why most people don't go through it. So Donald Trump and I highly endorse the network marketing industry. But sports fans, it is really, really one of the tougher roads to be an entrepreneur. But I love it. Do you love it, Kim?
Oh, I love it. I would never go back. And, right now with this economy growing, I think there's so much opportunity for people to get into business and to become entrepreneurs. The question, and I'm going to just say this to women, one of the things about women entrepreneurs is they found that women entrepreneurs do not grow big businesses. I mean, there's such a small percentage of women entrepreneurs whose businesses bring in more than $1 million. It's like 3%. So when you're starting your business, you start small, but have a plan, have a big plan, because this is about what really, in my opinion, this is what the economy needs right now more than anything.
Once again, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. This has been a session called Ask Robert, where your questions are important. I may be rude at times, but the reason I'm rude is because I want to be straightforward and blunt with you. Because let me tell you, sports fans, outside the world outside of corporate world and school, life is tough. You meet some of the best people on earth, but also some of the biggest crooks and scumbags. So you'd better be prepared for a wholly different world. Once again, if you want to ask me a question, send it to richdadradio.com.
Keep sending in your questions. We love the questions because we really want to know what's on your mind. So please keep sending the questions, richdadradio.com, and we'll get to as many as possible. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of Rich Dad Radio. We really, really appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Rich Dad Radio Show with Robert Kiyosaki. To learn more about the good news and bad news about money, go to richdadradio.com.